Hey everybody, welcome back. Come on in, come on in. I'm back. I told you guys that I had a super busy day. I've been running, but I just got back in and I wanted to hop on here because I want to give an update on what's going on in Jennifer Crumbley's criminal case. Jennifer Crumbley is the mom of the Oxford mass shooter, Ethan Crumbley. Now remember, Mr. Crumbley, he's going to be sentenced this Friday, December the 8th. So I will come back. I will give you an update on his sentencing after Friday. But I'm here today to just talk about um, what is in this new court filing for Jennifer Crumbley. She's bringing up the idea that her son's behavior prior to the mass shooting is irrelevant. It does not matter. It should not even be brought into her case of what he was doing. But we all know that Jennifer and James Crumbley, those are Ethan Crumbley's parents' names. We know that they are the first parents in the United States to be charged with any criminal charges that are attached to a mass shooting. This is their son, Ethan, right? So this is something that has not happened in the United States in all of these mass shootings. We have so many now, and they're saying that the son's behavior prior leading up to the mass shooting is irrelevant to their charges. But in all honesty, the fact that they are trying to say, and I'm going to say in this case, the fact that Jennifer Crumbley is trying to say that she was not aware of him torturing baby birds. When you're a parent, you have to check in. You have to know what your child is doing. You have to know their activities, their friends, where they're going, what they're doing in school, what are their grades. There were so many instances. And this is why I believe they were charged where they failed. They failed their son. And she's saying, no, that's not relevant. The fact that he did this torturing is not relevant to my case. But I disagree. So let's talk about it. Today we're going to be looking at an article. It's dated December the 5th. That's when it was updated. It's in the frep.com website, freep.com. And it's titled Jennifer Crumbley, Son's Extremely Disgusting Bird Torture Shouldn't Be Used Against Me. The article is written by Tressa Baldas. Okay, so let's read the article. Let's go through this. Jennifer Crumbley does not want jurors in her upcoming trial to know that her son tortured baby birds in the months before he shot up Oxford High School, arguing the details are extremely disgusting and inflammatory and could be used against her unfairly, according to a new court filing. Ethan Crumbley, who is to be sentenced Friday for his rampage 2 years ago, had videotaped himself unaliving birds, court records show. His mother, facing involuntary manslaughter charges along with her husband, maintained she never knew her son tortured birds or that he hid a bird's head under his bed for months. Then brought it to school in the same month he unalived 4 students and injured 7 others, including a teacher. It's very disturbing behaviors, many signs. Um, it's just really unfortunate that this happened. The bird evidence is so extremely disgusting, sickening, and appalling that its admission will certainly inflame the passion of a jury. The jury will undoubtedly judge Mrs. Crumbley for the heinous acts of her son, which she knew nothing about. defense attorney Shannon Smith wrote in a Monday filing. She argued that the bird evidence is irrelevant to the mother's case, especially considering there is no evidence to show she was aware of the shooter's disgusting acts with birds. It is clear that the shooter mutilated baby birds on more than one occasion, texted a friend about details of mutilating birds, video recorded himself doing so, and photographed vile and disgusting images of his actions, Smith wrote, stressing that the shooter intentionally hid this from his parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley. But all kids try to hide things, right? But you, as a parent, you have to seek out your child. You have to go in their room, look around, see if it's clean. If this dead bird's head was in the room under the bed for months, you could not smell it. Did you question him? And then when he took it to school, you had no knowledge of that. He's sending text messages, videos. You never checked his phone. You never looked at his phone. To me, it just appears to be a lot of excuses, a lot of reasons why you should not be held accountable, held responsible involuntarily, right? Let's keep going. The Crumbleys, who are the first parents in America charged in a mass shooting, faced trial in January on involuntary manslaughter charges. They are accused of ignoring their son's mental health troubles and buying him a GUN instead of getting him help. The same GUN he used in the November 2021 massacre. Prosecutors also allege that the Crumleys, more than anyone else, could have prevented the shooting had they told school officials about that GUN when given the opportunity, but hid that information. Not only did they not tell the school, when they went the same day of the mass shooting, they refused to take him home at that time. They could have taken him home. They could have taken him to seek a medical help, mental health counseling therapy that day, but they did not. They refused. The Crumleys' parenting skills and personal lives have long been scrutinized by the prosecution, which has disclosed in court filings that the parents engaged in all sorts of irresponsible behavior, including affairs, heavy drinking, and pot smoking. The defense has argued all that is irrelevant to the case. It would only serve to inflame the jury, like the so-called. If you are taking time to see other people outside of your marriage, that might take you outside of your home, taking you away from your child. If you are intoxicated or doing drugs, that may also change some of your attention. Your attention may not be on your child. You may overlook things. You may not be at a place mentally where you're even seeking things out. I can recall when the case first happened, how Ethan Crumbley would be sending text messages asking them to come home. He would tell them that he didn't like being alone. He said that bad things would happen when they weren't there. He would ask for them to call him. He would say that they wouldn't reply to his text messages. When they did things like go to check on their horse, they didn't take him sometimes. So when you're leaving a child, when you're not including them, when you're not giving them that attention, especially children that may need a little bit more attention or seek your attention, seek more of your time, their mind is left to roam. Their mind is open to other things, maybe turning to negative things. And when you give a child so much space where there's no supervision, no parental guidance, things like this can happen. Which is very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. If the bird evidence is admitted, it will end up being used as evidence that suggests bad character of the parents, although that fact is irrelevant to the issues the court has to decide, in this case, Smith wrote. Well, I feel like if this was a one-off where the bird evidence was the only issue that would demonstrate they had poor parenting skills, maybe they wouldn't want to admit it. But it's so many different things. Um, as I said, leaving him home alone, not seeking out the mental health counseling. When your child is telling you they need help, they need support. Him going to school and writing certain things. His journaling was, very, very dark. Um, Him wanting them to do things with him, just to acknowledge, to call him. It just seems like they weren't there for him, but he also felt alone. When the friend moved away, those was another instance where he may have felt maybe more disconnected when the family member passed away. Just so many things where you have to give your child some focus, some attention, some of your time, and that just didn't happen for him. So it's not like a one thing. It would be a stack of things that show that there was um, potentially some issues with parenting time, parenting skills, and even just advising him, you need to learn how to hide the bad things you do better so that the school isn't calling me. That's not the appropriate response if your child is doing something wrong. Um, So, in a separate filing, Jennifer Crumbley also is asking the judge for clarity on a salacious issue, her affairs. Oakland County Circuit Judge Cheryl Matthews has already ruled that an affair the mother had cannot be used as evidence in her trial, but the prosecution has talked of a second affair it discovered by the mom when Ethan Crumbley was 6, and the defense fears it may bring it up at trial. Um, the issue of the affair, if you're not happy in the marriage, but you're still in the marriage, but you're also having time outside of the marriage, outside of the home, I don't think the affair is so much the issue. um, I think that how you handled your child amongst that time is more so the issue. If your child is not getting priority with your time, your concern, your response, you not being home, you're not spending nights at home, that time is being taken away outside of the home, away from the child. And maybe she felt like he was old enough to be alone. I don't know, but I don't think the issue is really the affair. Again, it goes back to poor parenting, poor parenting skills, poor time, how you did it. Not that you had an affair, it's that potentially you had an affair, you left your son alone. It's that your son was texting you that he was alone, he was scared, he needed you, and you didn't respond, or you didn't come home, or you didn't call, or you didn't call for days. So I think the the affair is not so much the issue; it's the behavior with the poor parenting. That is the issue, the neglect um, for your son and for his mental health. I think that's what they should be focused on demonstrating. That Mr. Crumley, unfortunately, he was not a priority in the parents' lives. At least that's what it appears from what has come out. So it is asking for clarity. Matthews has ruled on what can and cannot be used as evidence against the Crumbleys. She will not allow evidence about infidelity by the parents, their messy house, alcohol, and marijuana in the house, and their son's Instagram pictures, internet searches, and a Nazi coin he had. Let me go over that list again. Evidence about infidelity by the parents, their messy house, alcohol, and marijuana in the house, and their son's Instagram pictures, internet searches, and a Nazi coin he had is not going to be allowed as evidence in the case. All concerning, right? Does your child have access to that alcohol? Does your child have access to those drugs? Why is your child not being provided a clean home, a safe environment where they feel protected? Um, why is your child in possession of, a Nazi coin? How did that happen? What is in those Instagram pictures? For me, going through the journal entries, um, I was concerned because from one page to the next page, every thought, every written thought was so dark. It let me know that he has spent a lot of his time alone, a lot of his time in a negative place, and a lot of his time with his imagination. He imagined how to do the mass shooting before he ever did it, before they ever purchased him the GUN. He had already imagined it. He wrote it out. He drew pictures. He drew pictures of a GUN. He drew pictures of shooting. He said how he wanted to shoot. He listed some names of who he would shoot. He had in his private time, because I honestly think in the journal, I don't necessarily think the parents may have saw it, because that was something that probably was very personal to him, that he may have held and taken, maybe in his backpack, or had a private secret place he put it. I don't necessarily know if they saw his journal entries, but those pages were extremely disturbing. They were explicit. They depicted pictures of violence. And in all the writings, they were very, very dark, morbid, just extremely sad for a teenager to have so many dark thoughts, and thoughts of harming other people, harming and torturing animals. Um, it was just very unfortunate to see those entries. I could not read them all. I had at one point, I may have looked at about 20 or 30, and I had to stop. Um, it was just very dark, and I shared some of them on the Hidden Horror Facebook page a few months back. Um, and I know I did a short, um, little video just showing some of the, I would take like excerpts throughout to let you see the mindset, how dark his mind was, how he had constant thoughts of harming, violence, um, mutilating animals, just constant writings, all very dark, of harming someone. Excuse me. She will allow evidence about the time and money the Crumbley spent on horseback riding and their son playing violent video games. Let me just talk about that for a minute. If you haven't figured it out, I want to just say that there is a space where some of the people that are very lonely, um, I don't want to call them depressed, but are struggling in their mental health and their thoughts. There is something about the gaming environment, um, where you have these violent video games, right? A lot of games that do different crimes. You might have robbery, you might have violence, shootings, things like that. And when you're young and your mind is not fully developed, you can put kind of in your imagination that, you taking a GUN and going and shooting, for example, people in a store, and, just walking away, and then you go to the next level. In real life, those people don't get up. Those people have families, they may have children, they have parents, they have people that love them and people that they love. But in the video game, It's just a part of the game, how it's set up. It's just you get to another level, you grow your character, you're able to attain points. But in real life, it has nothing to do with this false reality. But some people that don't have their mind in reality and they're living in like a fantasy life and they're watching these video games, they're getting in these chats, they're going online, they're sharing these ideas and different ideology about, harming someone, shooting someone, these ideas that you can do it and, you can walk away. No, when you harm someone, when you take someone's life, it's not like you go to the next level and you go on. No, you're going to be prosecuted. Your life is going to change for the rest of your life. You pretty much steal any future that you have planned, or even that you don't have planned, that you can't even imagine as a teenager how long you have to live. How do you get to 15 and 18 and these milestones at 21 and 25 and 30? You can't even think that far. You're playing a game as if this is fun, but then you think you can take similar characteristics and go out into the real world and have this whole fantasy of harming someone, but you don't know the effects, you don't know the impact. It's like a domino. When you harm somebody else, that person, like me, I have a child, I have a spouse, I have parents, I have siblings, I'm involved in my community. There's people that care about me that I care about. I volunteer, I have connections through that, I have employment, I have connections through that, church, I have connections. So you have so many facets of your life. And even though you don't see the ripple, you don't see those dominoes falling. That's how it is in real life. You hurt and you harm so many people. But when people are in this fantasy and they're living these shootings now, like they're in a video game, they're recording them, they're walking up, they're, taking the weapon and shooting the person and coming back for a headshot. It's like they don't have any emotion. They have no idea how many people they're harming, and you can't take any of it back. That's so bothered me in that video with Ethan, when the they had something covering his head, and he was moving and screaming and, asking God, why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you take accountability? Why weren't you responsible? Why did you do this bad thing? Take responsibility. Just like these parents, Jennifer and James Crumbley, more so this is video just for Jennifer, but for both of them, you have to take responsibility that you failed. You failed in your parenting. And I know there's no book, there's nothing that teaches parenting. There's no, if this happens, then do this. You learn day by day. But I believe in this case, this is an extreme case. You didn't put your son first. You didn't make him a priority. You didn't take what he said was his needs. You didn't listen to him. You didn't respond when he cried out. You didn't respond when he expressed how he felt, how he needed help. He needed mental health counseling. He needed therapy. You ignored it. You told him ways to get out of it. You told him ways to conceal it. You told him ways to hide it. You encouraged him to really lie to the teacher. And that's not what a good parent does. And I'm not saying a perfect parent, there is a standard, right? You have, what is acceptable in society? What is a norm? That is not normal. That's not healthy. And I'm not going to say it's because of the drinking or the marijuana or because you had a messy house or because of an affair. But what happens, you have an impact. Your decisions, and when you couple them and top them and add them together, you do show a pattern of neglect. You have harmed, you have neglected, and you have misinformed your son, Ethan. And what has happened? He was able to get his fantasies to build them. He was able to gather like people that agreed with him, that felt similar to him. He was able to indulge in these violent games, and it was a recipe for him turning into a mass shooter. And he wanted high numbers, and he wanted to hurt as many people as he could, because in reality, he was hurting. He was hurt. He felt alone. He felt lonely. He felt neglected, unheard, unseen. And when you show your child's feelings don't matter, you don't acknowledge them, you don't address them, you don't try to help them, you don't support them, you are actually breeding a place where you can have a situation when you give your child access to a GUN, you've homegrown a mass shooter. You didn't know it and you didn't see it. And you didn't want that to happen. I know you didn't. I know Jennifer and James Crumbley did not. I can see it in their faces. When I see them come to court, I can honestly say without a doubt, as a parent, and they're also being a parent to Ethan, they didn't want it to happen. Jennifer texts Ethan, please don't do it. James, he called 911 when he heard about the shooting. I think it registered to him that Ethan may have taken the GUN to school. I think it hit him like a ton of bricks. I don't think either Jennifer or James intended for what happened in Oxford to happen, not at the high school, no. But what we cannot assure or ensure is that our child is going to always do what we teach them and what we show them. The problem in the Crumbley's cases, you didn't show up for him. You didn't tell him no. You didn't tell him stop. You didn't go in his room. You didn't show up at the school. You didn't take him to the counseling. You didn't take him with you. You did not put the time in, the care in, the love in. And albeit you may love your son, love is not in words, love is in action. And when he needed you both to show him the love, when he texted and said, I am afraid, I am alone, I need you, please respond to the text, please call me, come home. Where are you? When are you coming back for me? You didn't do it. He was not the priority. And at some point, you have to know it. You have to know it. Know what kind of parent you were to your son. Can you stand on, I did everything I could. I was there. I waited. I showed up. I did my 100% best for my son. I showed up. I called. I responded. I took heed. I took the advice. I set my own plans to the side. I set my own goals. I put my child first. I put myself last. I did everything I could. And when he needed me, I was there for him. Because from reviewing those text messages, going over that court testimony, both of you failed Ethan greatly. And the really, really sad thing is, it's not even about you, Jennifer and James. You had a chance, you had a life, you had a youth. You were able to grow into the people you became. It's not about you, no. It's about those 4 kids at Oxford. Their lives were taken, uprooting their families, the community, the school district. You destroy those families. You can't stand and look into those families' faces and say you didn't. Because those families, they sent their kids to school for an education, to learn, to grow, to develop as human beings. And your son, he had a whole different mindset. And you never intervened, and you never corrected. You never showed up. You never gave him the support. You never took him to resources. And that is how you both, in my opinion, are guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Whether you want to say it was the torturing of the birds, whether you want to say it was the infidelity, whether you want to say it was a messy home, or the drinking, or the drugs. It all adds up the same, in my opinion. Is a lack of care, a lack of love. It is many choices that led you here to this day. It was inevitable that your son was not going to be stopped. He could have stopped that day you were at the school. He could have changed his mind. He could have turned that GUN in. He could have went and sought counseling that day, but he did not. He concealed it, and he, at his own free will, made the decision to do that thing, and that is what he did. And you both knew it. And as such, I believe, rightfully, you're standing for before the state of Michigan, that Oxford community, for justice to be sought on behalf of those 4 victims. I'm never going to forget those 4 students. That's what I care about, and they deserve justice. Ethan, he pled guilty to his bad deeds. What about you? What about you, James and Jennifer Crumbley? I don't wish for you to be put under the jail. I don't even wish for you to be in jail for life. But should you receive some due justice for what happened to those 4 students on account of your son, who you both failed, who you ignored, who you wouldn't even respond to his text message? The last part of the article, Ethan Crumbley, who was 15 at the time of the murders, has pleaded guilty to all the crimes with which he was charged and faces the possibility of life without parole when he's sentenced on Friday. What will be your sentence? What is justice in your cases, James and Jennifer Crumbley? Ethan has confessed to his sins, but he did. What will you do? You are fighting very hard but you know the truth of how you raised your son. And he decided to plead guilty. He spared those families from having to testify. What will you do? Will you do the right thing? Those children, they deserve justice. And I feel that you should be held accountable. So we will see what you will do. Your trial is next month. We will see. That is all. That is all today. Thank you for checking out this video. I hope that you check out some of my other videos. Please stay smart, stay safe, and stay savvy. Be well, my friends. Tell me what you think. Do you think James and Jennifer Crumbley should plead guilty? Do you think they should have even been charged? What's your thoughts? Post them in the comments below. I will read the comments. I always do. And if appropriate, I respond. Okay? So check out some of my other videos. Take care. Be well, all my friends. Bye, everybody.